Who wants waffles? That is not my best opener. I'm tired, so to heck with it. Okay, Stranger Things 3. Because apparently the show's too good to have them be called seasons. It just numbers them like they're like full-on sequels. Anyways, quick recap about my thoughts on this show. I really liked season 1 a lot. I did not like season 2 very much at all. And actually, I'm a double contrarian because not only did I not like season 2 of Stranger Things, I liked episode 7 of season 2, which was like the most universally hated thing about that season. But there you go. So I've now seen season 3. How is it? It's better than season 2. It's not as good as season 1. And suddenly I'm having flashbacks to the 3rd season of Daredevil, to be completely frank about it. It's giving me a very similar vibe. A first season that had a very clear mission statement and knew exactly what it wanted to be. A second season that felt done partly out of obligation and to keep the thing going until they could get to a better idea of how to actually continue this thing. And then a third season that feels more thought out and better constructed. Doesn't quite hit the heights of the first season, but is definitely a step up from the previous. That's what I felt about Daredevil. That's what I feel about Stranger Things Season 3. And it's actually funny, as I've been compiling my thoughts, it occurred to me how many things I actually don't really like about this season. But while I was watching, they didn't bug me so much because by the end of, I'd say, well, not quite the end of the first episode, but about halfway into the second episode, I felt very firmly, oh, this is definitely better than the previous season. So I was having fun on that basis alone, even as another part of my brain was continuing to keep a tally of the stuff that I wasn't really caring for. But the main thing is this manages to recapture a couple of things that season 2 of Stranger Things lacked. The first is it manages to recapture more of a sense of mystery and of not being sure what it is that's going on. The first season of Stranger Things had that in spades. It was a huge part of why I loved it. Season 2 really just didn't. There were some new elements that were brought into play. The Mind Flayer, the Demodogs, I guess count as new. But a lot of it was either pretty much identical, because like the Demodogs, it's just the Demogorgon, but it's smaller. Yeah, we had government agencies again, and yeah, the way it plays out is a bit different, but it's not vastly dissimilar from what we'd already seen as far as all of that stuff goes. And the Mind Flayer, while kind of interesting, felt in many ways like a scaling up of sort of the vibe we'd gotten from the Upside Down. So everything, was a little bit tweaked, but it didn't feel like it was a big unknown. It was just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Whereas this season, stuff very early on starts happening. I'm like, what is going on? Like, wait a minute, how does that work? Wait, what? And that was good to feel again. It was good not to just watch something happen and go, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because that's what a lot of season 2 was for me. The other thing is, this one feels a heck of a lot more focused and has done a better job of finding stuff for characters to do. Not all of them, but more than season 2 did. Because and this is one of the reasons why I think follow-up seasons are never going to be as good as season 1 for this. Season 1, aside from just the surprise factor, and you can only recapture that to a certain extent after the first time, one thing season 1 had that it had really well was it had a solid central premise. So that was Will Byers missing. Everything circled around that. Every character that was brought in was in some way connected to that. So everyone who was in the story was in the story because of how they related to either Will or Will's disappearance or how his disappearance happened. Everything came back to that. Season 2 did not have a strong central focus at all. Instead, it just brought back all the characters that had been in the previous season because they were in the previous season. They were no longer there because they were connected to a central core concept. They were there because, well, they were here last time. And the whole thing just lacked focus. It lacked thrust. It lacked just a sense of everything being properly connected as opposed to being connected by sheer friggin' coincidence. And while Season 3 doesn't fully get back to Season 1's level of a clearer, centralized issue that things tie into, it certainly has something closer to that than Season 2 did. It's a little bit unfocused. Some of the characters, they still haven't found great stuff to do. Nancy and Jonathan, honestly, they have not found much for them to do since the first season. They have a little bit more point than they did in the second season, in so much as their role is to basically be the people who keep discovering exposition. So, like, they serve a plot function as far as that goes, but, like, as characters, they just feel like they're there to dig stuff up and help deliver some exposition and make sure that certain things get discovered. So, they are a little bit... Max, who was introduced in Season 2, and who I didn't really take to, I was left thinking, what's the point of you? Is used much better here. I liked her a lot more. Especially, I really liked her interactions with Eleven. I thought that those were quite good. Hopper's weird in this one. I feel like they took some of the moments that were great cathartic moments of Hopper and then tried to make that his entire character this season, and it's off. And mainly I'm talking about him just kind of being a bit of a thug. Like when he would kind of just go, heck with it, in previous seasons, like, it felt built up to. You know, you felt his frustration build to that point. You felt his desperation at what was going on. You really wanted to see whoever he hit get hit. This season isn't totally devoid of that, but it feels like they've stripped away a lot of his character that isn't frustrated and angry and a little too gruff and pig-headed. Like, I feel like whatever else there was there besides that is kind of gone now, which is a bit of a disappointment. He didn't become a bad character. I still enjoy having him around, but yeah, something's just a little weird, a little off with him. Joyce is still good. As far as the kids go, they are fun. Not all of them have as much to do as others. Mike is kind of the most useless. He's the biggest hanger on. That said, it was nice to have Will have more to do, because Will has felt mostly like a victim first two seasons. So for him to have a bit more agency and have a bit more to do, that was nice. Lucas is just kind of funny, has a good dynamic. Dustin gets a fair bit to do. Lucas's little sister Erica gets featured a bit more. She's quite fun. Steve's still great. Steve was one of the highlights of season 2. And his sort of transformation from the high school hotshot, little bit of a bully, kind of a douche in the first season, to like the world's best babysitter in the second season. He kind of continues that trajectory as life is continuing to give him not what he expected he was going to get, but he kind of takes it in his stride. I really like Steve a lot. And they also paired him with a new character who I love, and that's Robin. So Steve has gotten himself stuck into a post-high school, couldn't get into college style job, which is he is slinging ice cream at the local mall. And his coworker is Robin. And Robin is awesome. She has a fantastic dynamic with Steve. She has a great chemistry with Dustin when they start interacting. She is just a lot of fun. There's also some stuff that goes on with her later on that I'm not going to spoil, at least not early in the review, that I really loved. But overall, like I said, a step up from season 2. I'm going to start to get into a bit more detail now, and that is going to mean, to a certain degree, spoilers. So if you have not seen all of Season 3, I'm not going to do like a full plot breakdown, but I'm just going to talk about the other things that I want to talk about, some of which will include spoilers. You have been warned. So, the whole thing with the Mind Flayer, it was actually kind of cool because I mentioned recapturing that. What is going on? And that started out like with the rats. Like all amassing in this place, and then they just start like exploding. And it's like, what is going on? And then the thing kind of takes over Billy. And I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, are we getting an invasion of the body snatchers thing? Like, what is this? And like, not in a this doesn't fit way, but just in a I wouldn't have expected this, and I'm intrigued way. And then, later seeing the bodies like come together and reform, because it was kind of cool because the Mind Flayer before had been this very sort of ethereal, smoke-like, shadowy thing. So now to see it made up of goop and melted muscle and viscera and teeth, it's kind of cool because it's that same design, but it's like, that is not made of the same stuff. Oh, Lord. So, like, that was neat, and I enjoyed that. I did feel that from, like, it's getting its full reveal through the defeat was just kind of plugged along. It didn't let me down at any point, but it just kind of plugged along the way that I would have expected it to. And certain points of resolution really were like exactly what I expected. I didn't expect that Hopper was gonna die, but I did like from the beginning. I called that Susie was gonna end up showing up at the end and being real and all that. And but it's still kind of nice. Predictable does not always mean unsatisfying. Sometimes what you expected can be nice. That said, in the case of something like Stranger Things, because that first season was so unexpected, any season that, even though it may be pleasant and enjoyable, if it is more predictable than season 1 was, it still feels like it's missing a little something, which this season is kind of a bit. I have mixed feelings about the whole Russian subplot, especially for the time, the idea that the Russians are also kind of trying to do this same sort of thing and set up this whole secret base or whatever. I'm cool with that. I also like Alexei as a character. Initially, I was annoyed when they brought back that conspiracy nut, and that felt like kind of crowbarred in and contrived, except like he had a fun dynamic with the characters he interacted with, so I'm like, oh, fine, give it a pass. I didn't need the Russian Terminator. Like, I don't know what the character's name was. I don't know if it ever got said, but that's what he was. He was the Russian Terminator. Didn't need him at all. Really didn't care. I thought he was laughable. Just as a concept and watching him kind of stomp around. Ugh. No. Didn't care for him. But overall, I kind of like how some of the team are sort of trying to figure out what's going on with Billy and then working on the Mind Flayer, whereas Steve and Robin and Eric and Dustin are figuring out the Russian stuff, and then everything comes to a head. Like I said, it does depend a bit more on coincidence than I would have liked, but they do all come together, and again, it gives everybody something to do except Mike, because Mike kinda sucks. I'm sorry, he just does. I didn't love Joyce and Hopper, like, starting to become a thing. That felt like unnecessary fan service. Like, it was something fans were calling for, and they just kind of did it. I'm like, why? Like, why? And, like, maybe it was hinted at more previous seasons. I'm sure somebody will tell me if it was, but, like, I still don't like it. I just don't. I mean, effects were good. You would have expected that from this. It's atmospherically shot. The music's really cool. I feel like, I don't know if I'm just becoming more sensitive to them. I feel like the call-outs to 80s pop culture are getting more and more blatant. Like, I felt like So the call-outs have always been pretty upfront. Like, the tapping into the nostalgia for the era it's set in is a big part of the show's appeal. It wears that on its sleeve. But I feel like they kind of stopped the plot dead to go, hey, new Coke. Hey, the never-ending story theme song. I'm like, you're not integrating it into the story. You're stopping the story to go, hey, it's practically a product placement. The only difference is it's for products that aren't being sold new anymore. So that was a little weird. Okay, I need to come back onto this because I mentioned Robin. So I want to be very clear about this. And again, spoilers. I don't love Robin because she's gay. I loved Robin well before she revealed she was gay. That said, the reveal, the way it's done, and the way Steve reacts once he digests that information, I love. I love the way she tells him. I love how he kind of takes a minute to process and then just starts ribbing her for the girl that she had a crush on. Like, I love that he just transitioned into that. I love Steve. Steve's great. And it just made that dynamic all the better. I've seen some people actually call out that the show is hinting that Will might be gay. That wasn't my read on it. I was actually reading him more as asexual than I was reading him gay, but it's not made explicit either way. I just wanted to toss that out there as well. Overall, I had a good time watching this, and which is nice because a lot of follow-up seasons have become slogs for me for a lot of shows that started out strong and I used to like at some previous point. Like, I've started the 3rd season of Jessica Jones. I've gotten all of 1 episode in and I'm just not motivated to keep going. I'll finish it, but like, kind of don't wanna, or at least I'm not excited to do it. But Stranger Things 3, while I have a fair number of nitpicks, and like, while I'm always happy to see Carrie Elways, having him basically just be the mayor from Jaws, only more corrupt, you know, there's plenty of nitpicks for me to throw at that. That, Hopper, Nancy and Jonathan, there's lots for me to pick at, but overall I can't argue with fun. And at the end of the day, I had fun with this season. So, those are my thoughts on Season 3 of Stranger Things. You've seen it. What'd you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Bunch of stuff down there to do, including hit the like button, which you've been doing lately, and it has actually been helping, so please keep it up if you can. I've also got a PayPal tip jar, or if you want to keep me going on a sustained basis, there's the Patreon down there as well, plus links to my book and merch and blah, 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 blah. Tons of links down there. Click on them. They'll take you places. But you don't have to, because at the end of the day, you're the council, and I'm just running the meetings. So until next time, this council is adjourned.